action. So I am definitely gonna get us going. So welcome to Mindset Mastery. My name is Suzanne Hart, and my topic today is how to find courage in the face of fear, uncertainty, and tragedy. This conversation is for you if you have been going through some tough times. You know that dark moment where you think it cannot get any lower than this? This is kind of for you today. This is for you if you're looking to make the rise from the fall, get up and keep moving, and you're looking for some inspiration. This is a conversation for you. And this is particularly for you if you believe that diamonds are made from coal. You know, when you're in that tough moment, when you're in the middle of the heat and you don't know what to do, this conversation is for you. So this is about unstoppable conversations for people who want to reset their thinking so they can keep moving. This is Mindset Mastery is for you to understand how your thoughts, your communication, and your emotions impact your choices, your behaviors, and your actions, particularly in the time of fear, challenge, change, and uncertainty. If you want to keep it moving and be absolutely unstoppable, this conversation is for you. Okay, so I want to introduce this beautiful woman beside me. And when I met this woman, it was instant. I just loved her energy. I loved her willingness to just speak her truth. And then I found out how talented and gifted she is. So let me tell you a little bit about her, because this is a bio. First of all, she's a chiropractor. She's a chiro, check. Okay, chiro. She's also a personal trainer, like a certified, many certification type personal trainer. She knows a whole bunch about nutrition. So people go to her to dial up their nutrition so they can get into the best shape of their life. She is a competitive bodybuilder, fitness competitor. She is a pro. All right. So she's got her pro card. She was a fitness expert on the Marilyn Dennis show. So she's been doing some stuff. She is a mom. Let's go. She's a mom. Probably one of the most important accolades that she has. And in recent time, she has become an author. Now, what's really cool about this is she has become a children's author. Now, when you listen to that bio, you're like, how'd you become? So I guess becoming a mom had a definite impact. So please help me welcome the beautiful Dr. Michelle Chris. Hey there.
How are you?
I am amazing. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for the intro.
You are welcome. So I want to situate everybody because I really want them to get the situation. Dr. Michelle is hiding out in her room because she's got kids. So how many of you know you just got to keep it moving? You guys got to keep it going. 3 children, and you got to find that quiet spot. So we were like bathroom, closet, bedroom 1. Right? So that's what happens when we do things from the comfort of our home, and we are just unstoppable. So first of all, I am so excited for your new book. I was scrolling on Facebook and there you were, new book. I was like, ooh, let me check it out. Then of course I had to talk to you. We needed to get the goods. And I really loved the story that you had on the page for when you were, kind of raising your funds. So can you start with let everybody know a little bit more about yourself, but what was going on in your life that inspired you to kind of make a shift, make a pivot into author?
It's interesting. I really always wanted to write a book for at least 10 years. I've wanted to write a book. I always thought it would be in something like more in my field at the time, which was mostly fitness. So I thought it would be fitness related or fat loss or nutrition or something about goals or personal development, just because that was the world I was in. I never dreamed that my first book would be a kid's book, but that's kind of how life goes at times.
Yeah.
Is, it surprises you, throws you curveballs, and that just sort of ended up being the first book I wrote. It it kind of all began with the birth of my son. It was this crazy, awesome time, and pregnancy for a lot of women. A lot of them are like, well, I'm sure it's mixed, but from a lot of the women that I talked to who had been pregnant, they loved it. Like they were glowing, they loved the process. And I mean, I effing hated it, Suzanne. I mean,
Let's just be real.
pregnancy was not good for me. Like I didn't like any of it. I felt out of sorts. It was very emotional for me. Um, my partner and I at the time had tried years and years of, you know, fertility treatments and whatnot, trying to have a baby. So it was a really arduous process. And after about 5 years, I finally became pregnant with IVF. And so the drugs took a toll, and it was really hard.
Mm.
But the moment he was born, it changed everything in a lot of ways for me. And you know, there's this beautiful birth of my son, and at the very same time, while he was very young, in a very quick span of only 6 weeks, my marriage and relationship fell apart, and
Wow.
it essentially ended. Um, and so I went through this really hard, like crazy dark time, like that's supposed to, you know, you read about it, it's supposed to be joyous and like one of the greatest times of your life, and it was, but it was also really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And your whole world gets turned upside down. And so I went through a period of deep transformation, lots of change, tons of uncertainty. And um, you know, I sought that. Thank God I had such a crazy social network, like family, friends. I had so much help and so much support. And through that and some really amazing healers I have in my life, I sort of um, spawned this book. It was just sort of not like, it started as just like little ideas and sketches and words, and there wasn't much to it. But it was like a calling. Like it just, like I couldn't get it out of my head. So I started writing things down. I started doing these little doodles, and you know, it started like that, just really simply.
And was it because one of the things I didn't mention when you know, when I introduced you, was when I got to know, I remember with the first time I went to your house, the other surprise is you are really artistic. You draw, you paint, you do all that wonderful stuff. So was that just the drawing a part of your healing and the part of just getting things out? Was that part of it?
It totally was, you know, and the story of Sprout really reflects what was going on with me and my life at the time, and also my son. You know, like Sprout, it's essentially the story of this baby sunflower seed and all the adventures and adversity he faces after he is blown away from his mother, grown sunflower sprout. He's blown away from her in a windstorm and finds himself in the dark, you know, in the dirt on his own. And it's the story of how he overcomes all that and makes a choice to keep growing. And so it mirrors my son, but it also mirrors so much of what was happening for me, because I do feel very much like I was reborn during that time. You know, I had to unlearn a lot of my thinking. We all sort of get used to being in control and having a plan for our life, and my plan got hit with a fucking Mack truck. so, well,
that dumped dirt on you, right?
yeah, my plan got flattened and like destroyed. So, you know, I had to be reborn. I had to start all over again. So, but it
I
was
love it. Such a great analogy, and I just want to ask everyone that's listening, you know, and I see Chantal, I saw Patricia joined earlier, I see Cindy. Hello, Cindy. Cindy's a big fan of Dr. Michelle's. I see Kristi, welcome. And so one of the things, put in the comment section if you've ever had a moment, and I love the analogy where you feel like you've been blown away from your center, blown away from what you know, and you ended up in the dark feeling like you're covered with dirt, right? I mean, that is such a beautiful analogy. And I think in that moment we do feel like like we're in the dark and we're out of sorts and we're turned around and not knowing what to do. But this is the thing that I when I read what, like, just a little bit about the book, what really got me, and I wanted to have this conversation with you, is that, okay, so here is this seed, which represents children, each and every one of us. And you said the seed made a choice to grow, to sprout. And talk a little bit about that, because that languaging is so powerful, because no matter how dark things get, no matter how much we get turned around, the fact, what you're saying is we all have a choice to grow.
Yeah. And I think what's nice about being a seed is it's it's safe in there. You're protected, and it's totally fine to be there for times of our lives. Sometimes it's important that we stay there because there's internal work that needs to be done, and that's a safe
Mm.
place. But you can't stay there forever, because the juice of life, like, you have to allow that in. The only way that, and I love nature as a metaphor for looking at our lives and how we grow in all sorts of ways. So in order for a seed to sprout and grow into its full potential, whether that's like into an oak tree or a sunflower in the case of my book, you have to let life in. You have to be
Mm.
open with possibilities that are out there. So you can stay in a seed for a little while, and we're there for sometimes a while because we need to be protected. But in order to expand beyond that, you have to open up yourself to nourishment, and in the case of a seed, to water and to the nutrients in the soil, and as a human being, to information or people who can help you, love, feeling your feelings. Like, you have to let it in order to grow.
Mm. And so it is, it's so true, we have to let it in, and it's different, we need different things too, right? So I like it, like, we need water, we need nutrients, we need sunshine, and so we need love, we need nutrients, we need tough love at times, we need encouragement, we need all those things. What, as you wrote, because if a seed, and I don't know not much about plants, but I'd imagine if a seed doesn't get what it needs, or it chooses not to, it'll get hard, won't it? It'll get hard and dry up.
100%. And it's true. There is a certain percentage in plant life of seeds that don't ever sprout and don't ever open. And one of the amazing friends who helped me through at that time is wildly intuitive. She has a gift not of this earth. And she just said simply, some seeds never sprout. No judgment. It's
Hmm.
your path. Um, but they said it's not yours. Um, the courage of the sprout, they kept telling me. And that, because I remember saying early in those days when I was a single mom at the time and struggling to make money and carry my house and care for my son. um I just remember, like, feeling like lost, like not knowing who I was or what I was supposed to do. And she looked at me. I say they because she's a channeler, but she looked at me calmly and said to me, but isn't that how a new sprout feels? Like,
Yeah.
uncertain, unsure. You're new. This is new. This is normal. He said, don't be afraid. Like, don't fear this. It's totally normal. And to, what did they say? Embrace the poo.
The fertilizer.
Yeah, exactly. They said, do not fear, like, the poo. Like, it. This is what helps you grow. So don't be
So
afraid.
give, for everyone listening, give examples of what the poo is, or the fertilizer, because I take it we don't always want to embrace it. So what were some of the fertilizers for you as you were asked to embrace it?
That's such a great question. I had to embrace my vulnerability. That was a tough thing for me as a high level athlete and a fiercely independent woman, to um, admit that I was
Mm.
like sad and afraid, and to ask for help was really hard for me.
I get you. I get you. The two islands, right? The two like we got islands. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, because all of a sudden I didn't have it, you know. I needed the village, and so that was hard, but became easier and is so much easier now. Like I'm so much
And,
quicker for help.
and and do you find being a high performing athlete, both of us high performing athletes, are one of the things about being an athlete is your pain threshold is high, right?
Yes.
Suck it up, do the
Yeah.
next thing,
Yeah.
and I think I know for myself what gets me through things is that training of suck it up. I know it hurts, it burns, it whatever, keep moving. But also what prevents me at times from growing or healing or feeling is I can just push through. I can motor through things. And so like you, when I went through my divorce and all the devastation and had to stop and go, do I really have to feel this? And because I was just sucking it up and motoring through and getting through. And I remember it was my doctor who said to me, honey, uh, this is not good. I was like, what?
Yeah. Well,
Right?
great.
Right. And I remember telling him, I don't know why I'm losing weight. I don't know why I can't sleep. I don't know. And he was like, well, maybe if you stop for a moment and feel, you might
Mm.
figure it out. And for me, that was the poo, the fertilizer, the
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the feeling, like, to feel emotions was a new, like, that was a new thing for me. For a few reasons. As an athlete, you're told to turn a lot of those off because
yeah,
you
absolutely.
you want to be in the zone, and you don't want to admit weakness when you're on the field or on the court, like, or on the stage, like,
Mhm.
you fake it till you make it. So it's not like creating music where you're taught to draw out emotion and turn that into art. I mean, I think in some sports and in some ways people have really learned how to do that in sports too, but just with the coaches and the upbringing I had, that wasn't the case for me. So that was like a whole new learning curve.
Mhm.
Feeling my feelings for one, and then being able to put them into words and actually talk about them, I'm still learning.
Yeah, yeah. And so here you are, you're feeling the you're in the poo, if you will. You're in the muck of it.
Yeah.
What did you find when did it shift for you? What was beautiful about it? Because I think for me, hindsight is always 2020. And when I was going through it, it was anything but beautiful. But when
Mhm.
I look back at it, I see so much beauty and brilliance and things that would never have been accessible. And I really want to share that because I think we're in a time where a lot of people are in the muck,
Mhm.
they're in the manure, and they're looking at it and going, it's manure, it's shit, it is like, this is bad, it smells. And what you're saying is, yeah, it's fertilizing you. And
Oh
now
yeah.
you have a choice to look for what's great in here. And so talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, if we look at the great writings and teachings of anyone in history, they all come from deep times of sorrow and trauma.
Yeah.
Um, the most beautiful music is from heartache. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't find anyone would argue us on that. So when life is chugging along easy, like according to plan, there's no growth there. There's
Yeah.
no there. You can become really unconscious, just sort of chugging along. And
Hmm.
a lot of the way life is supposed to go is horseshit, anyways, because it's just this made up perception by the media or the patriarchy, or pick whichever one you want.
Yeah.
um, it's not real, and so when these hard times hit us and this trauma, we call it shit and we call it bad, but I'm so grateful because it was a fucking wake up call, Suzanne. you
Yeah.
know it was a blessing. Like, it feels like utter shit at the time, but it is a wake up call. It is for growth. It is to change. It is to become a better human being. So
So
you have to
talk a little.
embrace the poo.
Yeah. I love the analogy. Talk a little bit about what were some of the blessings and how did you use those blessings as for Sprout? And so for those of you that are just joining, I'm speaking with Dr. Michelle Chris. She's the author of a children's book by the name of Sprout. And it is about a sunflower seed that gets blown away from its mom and gets lost in the dirt, the darkness, and chooses to grow, right? And we were talking about, poop, fertilizer, dirt, and when we're caught in it, it's not fun. But what were some of the blessings that came out of that you are like you see today and that you transferred into the book?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. I just I became so much more aware of
Mhm.
all the love around me. I'd never been so aware of how much love you get, so caught up in the day to day, and not really being in the moment, and chasing like goals. And I'm not saying that these things are wrong, like, setting goals and chasing them, but you just get so wrapped up in all these things outside of yourself and the moment at the time, that I really wasn't still very often. I don't think I had been at that time for a long time, and enjoyed the moment. And so that was something that was huge for me. It just slowed time. And a lot of people are like, I can't believe you went through that with your son, like at 6 weeks, like you
Mhm.
lost your mom and everything fell apart. Like, that must have been so hard. And I was like, I actually fucking loved it, because I had him all to myself, and I got to enjoy just me and him just like that. Um, so I was so grateful for that time, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. It is. I know for myself what you're really alluding to is I learned to look for the beauty,
Mhm.
right? And when I was younger and when I actually had my pivotal moment, which was also a divorce, I would say to people, queen of the pity party and queen victim, right? Like I could do a reality show for sure back then, queen victim. And really what I learned to do was actually look for the beauty in my situations, look for the lessons, look for the giftings, um, and realize that if I chose to look, they're always there.
Mhm.
They're like always there. And so I think one of the things you're talking about is training ourselves to look for what's amazing in the middle of the shitstorm.
Totally. To
I
embrace to embrace the shitstorm, to
Mhm.
feel all the feelings you need to feel, good and bad, through the shitstorm. And the thing is, Suzanne, you and I, we could have stayed stuck in the pity party. And I don't
Oh,
think any of our friends or family, I mean, nobody would have thought that was unusual. Um, and many people stay there for years.
mhm.
But the truth is, the only thing that ends up getting hurt there is you end up being that seed just stuck in the dirt. Like, you don't go anywhere. You've been given this gift. And what's that crazy saying? Sometimes when you feel like you've been buried, maybe you've just been planted. And that's kind of like, I remember thinking
That's
that a
beautiful.
lot. I remember thinking that a lot during that time, because it feels like that. It feels so heavy, but it's all, you embrace it. It's all to learn. And there's such hope. Like, I remember feeling so much hope, but I chose that. I chose to feel that.
Mhm. And I mean, it's such a great conversation because I know for myself, remembering being curled up on the floor in my new place,
Mm.
um,
Mhm.
with
Mm.
my one chair,
Yeah.
thinking, seriously?
Yeah.
Um, and then really after a little bit appreciating the space,
Mhm.
right? Like after a while, just appreciating the space, the no expectations, the no demands, all
Yeah.
those sorts of things, and then shifting into growth. And so talk a little bit about the shifting into growth for you, because I know for myself it's almost like a pivotal time. And they say you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. You get tired of just being in the shit, really. You get tired of just, it's that pivotal time where you actually realize you have to choose,
Mhm.
right? And I think for me, what I realized, if I didn't choose, um, this would become my identity. This, right? This poor me. This can't do it. This would become my identity. This would become who I was, and
Mhm.
I wasn't willing to go down like that. Truth be told.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, the beautiful thing about trauma and adversity and these beautiful gifts that we get given is it makes you feel, but then it allows you to step outside of your conditioning and all the
Mhm.
story that
Yeah,
you've let run your life. Stories about your limitations and your abilities, what you can do, what you can't do. Um,
what's supposed to happen, what things are supposed to look like.
Totally. And
Yeah,
then you go through this huge heaping steaming pile of shit or a Mack truck, like what I say in my case, and you're still alive. You come out on the other side and you did it. You made it. You're still here. You still feel, your dog still licks your face in the morning, the sun still rises, life goes on, and you're like, okay, life didn't stop. I
yeah,
can do it. And for me, I mean, I just felt like if I made it through this, like I can do anything.
yeah.
And
That is the gift, right?
yeah, and I was like, I can sit here and keep living in this. And I think it's important for people like you, one of my therapists, and she's so amazing, Wendy. I attended these like women's only group therapy sessions.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, due to COVID, I haven't been in months, but she has this beautiful way of expressing if you don't honor like the sad, shitty grieving part. She calls it a spiritual bypass, which I find such a beautiful way of wording it. So it's important when these really awful hard times come that we don't just try to like skip over them because there's a lesson to be learned in digging deep and being vulnerable and feeling the pain and living in the shit. Like
Yeah.
you need to go through that.
And
Um,
I think what also happens is, I have found that when I get to those places, that I describe it as being at the edge of who I know myself to be. Right? It's like I see myself this way. I'm doing all the things I'm accustomed to doing. None of it's working. It's like I'm at the edge of everything I know. And
yeah.
then there's this place where, I think the parallel, there's this time where I have to now mourn this person who
Mhm.
can't get it done, who can't do it, who can't, like, I gotta mourn all the ways of being that I'm now present to, that, oh my gosh, this is what's keeping me stuck. So it's almost like you go through a grieving of who you know yourself to be,
Because it
and
was
who,
just a construct to begin with.
right, and who you've been hanging on to being, because this is
Mhm.
how the world knows me, right?
Yes.
And so you hang on, hang on, hang on, and then you realize I gotta let her go in order to embrace what's possible. And I think the part of sorrow and the mourning and the grieving is grieving I know for myself, the image of what I thought was supposed to be, the image of what society told me was gonna happen, it not working out and feeling like I failed that image, and then surrendering and letting go of it, grieving it, then going, okay. And now I get to build. And it's almost like, and when I saw the book and I saw the pictures and I read everything, it reminded me of that time where you're just like, okay, it's time to come out of it's time to sprout.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to go through. And you know what? I think what's really interesting about the analogy you use is the time in the dirt is not fun and it's hard, but the sprouting is hard.
It's nourishing.
Yeah.
It's hard. Nourishing.
Oh, talk a little bit about nourishing.
We're not, another great lesson today. Through another gifted friend of mine, I wrote an email. She's a channeler, so I get to write her emails, questions, and she channels, for those of you unfamiliar, she channels not of this earth and gives you answers back. It's the closest thing I can think of to talking to angels, or however you feel comfortable wording it. But there's balance in everything in life. If you look at nature, it's such a beautiful expression of balance. There's no lack of human beings. We're the only beings on this planet that have choice. And choice is our greatest folly, but it's also our greatest gift.
Yeah.
So we have to remember that. Like you have to honor all of the feelings, and in the dirt and in the poo is such a massive amount of nourishment, because you get to feel all of these feelings that society and ourselves, we're very hard on ourselves.
That's so good.
Normally push down and bury. And when you're hit with trauma and your plan A gets like slammed, you have no choice but to grow. You grieve for sure, and it's awful and it's horrible, but there's such nourishment and hope and possibility at the end of that, if you can just allow yourself to feel all of it and then just be open to the growth afterwards. Because that's the fun part, is every day becomes like Christmas. You have no idea what's going to happen and what blessings will come.
And as you were talking, what it reminds me of is that the nourishment for me is that all my adversity and all the stuff that I have gone through, and it's the living through it and realizing how strong I actually was and am, how courageous I could be, how resourceful I could be, how resilient I could be, how creative I could be, how spontaneous I could be, how many, like 9 lives I could actually muster, how you drop me and I'll always land on my feet. It's like, it's those moments that nourish me with all those knowings. And that when I decide to sprout, using your analogy, I now am sprouting with all that knowing, right? And so it's like, bring it on, because I've been through this. I know this about myself. I now know this about myself. I now know this about I didn't know this last year, but now I know it. And so I'm nourished as I'm sprouting. That is so good. That is so good. That's like a book in and of itself.
I'm telling you, nature has all the answers. Used to say, my good friend also used to say, she said, you have to, she said, have you ever watched flowers in a windstorm or trees in a windstorm? You watch humans walking down the street and we're holding our hair and our hats and our toupees and our teeth and our clothes, and but if you watch flowers and trees, there's like this, they just go with it, they're not fighting it. And the same as a river, if a river meets an obstacle, it doesn't really matter how long, it just sort of finds a way around, and it might take some time, but just sort of flows around like there's nothing that can stop it. And we're the same. We're the same.
And, there's so many allergies. Like I just brought my hibiscus in, and as soon as I bring it in, all the leaves fall off. then it gets green again, and it does it every year. All the leaves fall off. The first year I was like, what the heck did I do? And then it started sprouting, then it started flowering, right? And so, I can just imagine the hibiscus going, no, hang on to the leaves. Don't let them fall off, right? But no, it's just like, yeah, baby, my leaves don't fall off. I'm good. And it's such great teachings for each and every one of us. With every season, plants do the thing they're supposed to do, and we fight every season
Yes,
because it's change,
that's
right?
right.
And not realizing, it's interesting because I always say, you know, the plant, the tree really doesn't fight growth.
Mm.
They just like, yeah, that's what we do. We grow. And the reality is we may not see it, but there's only growth, because there's no such thing as standing still. It's either you're dying or you're growing. We might think, yeah, I'm just going to stand still here for a while. As long as there's time, and as long as the world keeps moving, as long as there are days going forward, there's no standing still. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest learns. So share some of the lessons that Sprout learns, if you can, on the journey. What are some of the key things, and why did you write for a child? Because I mean, we're talking about all the lessons that like we big people got, right? But why did you choose to write it for a child?
Um, I chose to write it for a child, obviously, because like my son was such a big part. He was like literally the biggest flower in my life at that time. He brought such like softness and joy and love to my life. The analogy I use at the time is I was sort of living my life not like a seed, not open to the joy of life, but and to the juice and to the possibility, but I was living more like a rock. I wasn't open, and I thought I knew how things would work, and I forced things, and I exerted power, um, and I was very focused on performance, and I just wasn't as open to the juice of life,
Mhm.
like seed would be, and open to the possibility. And so I wrote for kids because I thought if I had known what I learned now when I was younger, and if there's any way that I can like impart this wisdom on my son now my three children, that's when we have to start talking about these things and being
Mhm.
open to possibility and being vulnerable is when our children are young. These are
Yeah.
when the things need to be taught. So, I was bullied like mercilessly when I was young, which I think has a lot of the reason why I had so much armor on me. And so,
You both.
yeah, but a simple, like if somebody had just told me, which this has nothing to do with any fault of my parents or anyone else in my life. A lot of these things are only coming out now. But if somebody had just told me that when somebody says something cruel to you, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with their own insecurities, and only a hurt person would say anything hurtful. Like that would have changed my life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I didn't know that at the time. Like what I learned was, oh, so and so hurt your feelings. Well, nobody can fucking hurt your feelings without your permission. But I was never taught that. So
Hmm.
it was really important to me to impart some different lessons based on what we know as a society now with everything that we know. Like the world is like my kids book is nothing. Let's talk about BLM and women's rights and all the movements that are going on right now. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
there's so much that needs to be taught, and the earlier those lessons are taught, the better.
Yeah,
Just
and I think what's beautiful about your book is it will help give parents words, right? Because I think a lot of times for a lot of parents, because they themselves are in the struggle, like we were, we're going through our own stuff. That there's not words, and I think the beauty of a children's book, and the analogy of Sprout and the sunflower, it's a safe place to find the words to teach things that absolutely need to be taught in this day and age. You know, I see Cindy, she's going, such a refreshing conversation. I saw Nakembe say, thank you, this is so real. You know, people are just loving this conversation. And I think the beauty in it is, you know, we are proof, in terms of all the movements that are going on, that the conversations that you're talking about in Sprout are not just needed for us, but they start, and we need to gift these conversations to our children, and start it at a very, very young age, and really talk about the strength in vulnerability, and the strength in respecting others, and the strength in difference, and the strength in being inclusive, and the strength in just, you know, life is not a white picket fence and 2.5 children and the 2 cars and the no.
No,
Right? I think it's having those real conversations, and I think what you're doing is providing a beautiful tool for those conversations to happen.
for sure. It needs to happen. Life,
Yeah,
life, life for me is two women from, you know, broken families, as they call it in modern society, who found love and brought our beautiful blended family together. And none of us have the same last name. like, like none of us. um, but that's our family, and it's the best. And we didn't change it for the world. It's
and
not
and I
even at all.
and I think, you know, what you're demonstrating, you know, is courage, right? And in Sprout, you know, as you talk to it, it's the courage to be your authentic self, the courage to choose authenticity, to the courage to listen to your true self. And we are so conditioned to not be our true self, to not be our authentic self. And I think it's such a beautiful lesson, for parents to gift their children. And I'm going to keep saying it: parents, gift your children. Right. So, I want to, before we wrap, I want to let everybody know how to get Sprout, and I'm going to make a recommendation to everyone. So, I always tell people, buy 3. When we have an author on that has the courage to put their voice into the world, and to share their creativity, that we are like right into support. Right. So this is how we do it. You buy 3 books,
Mhm.
1 for you and your child, and 2 for 2 other families who you know need to be blessed with this information. So I know Tree is going to put the link, to you know, connect with Michelle, be able to get the book, but don't just buy 1, buy 3 and give 2, because you know, part of what we do here, and as we craft unstoppable mindsets, is we're always blessing, paying it forward, and knowledge and power and information is great when I have it, but it's even better when I share it and I'm able to engage in dialogue. So, Dr. Michelle, your screen's frozen, but I'm hoping we can still hear you. Yes, yes. So let everybody know a little bit about how they can get the book, all that wonderful stuff.
Yeah, sure. It's super simple. You just go to my website, michellekrisp.com, and right on the front or on the book tab, you'll be able to go there. At the moment, it's still set up for my Kickstarter campaign, so it'll take you to the video to watch how Sprout came to be. But I'm just working with my guy on Fiverr, which is an amazing site, by the way. If you ever need help, go to Fiverr.
Yeah.
Um, so within the next 2 days, although you can still do it, within the next 2 days on the website, you can buy it from my publishers, Friesen Press, or you can buy it off Amazon. But for now, you could just look up Sprout, either in the Friesen Press bookstore or on Amazon. You should be able to order it. But within a couple days off my website, it's the same.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. And what would you like to leave us with? And I'm going to tell you, you're definitely going to come back next, you know, in the new year for conversations, because this, I'll let you know what's as heavy on my heart, as I've watched all the stuff that's happening, is this whole inclusion conversation. and the embracing of difference. So every last Thursday of the month, we're going to have a conversation about diversity, inclusion, bias, racism, all that juicy stuff, embracing of difference. And part of the reason is I know everybody's kind of exhaling because there's been a shift in the, in government and all this stuff. But my thing is, if we let this conversation stop now, then we didn't get the lesson. Mm-hmm. And so, and I want to put it in the place of, this is a leadership conversation, right? It's not I need to have this conversation and you don't and all that stuff. This is a true leadership conversation where, as leaders, inclusion and how we treat and respect and honor people is the cornerstone of leading. And so we're definitely going to have, because I know we could, you and I can talk on this one. So I'm going to definitely invite you back for that.
Amazing.
So last words. What do you got?
Last words. What do I have? When after you've gone through the poo, and the poo's coming, if you haven't had a significant steaming pile of shit yet in your life, it's coming. And there might be a few of them. So when it does, like, let it in, like, feel it all. And at the end of that, there is such hope and possibility, because all of anything about yourself, you're not only what you thought were your abilities and who you were, but what your limitations were, are literally washed away with the poo. And there's just so much hope and expansion that's possible. You no longer think you have to make anything happen, which is that is like, it's such a gift. You don't need to make anything happen. You just sort of need to. It just gives you the opportunity to feel and just trust yourself. Like I say, I think in my last update for my Kickstarter, on the 30th day of my campaign, I just told everyone, like, I had no, like, I'm sorry, I swear a lot, everyone on the pod. I had no fucking idea how to write a book, or how to do a Kickstarter, or how to market. Like, I didn't know anything, but I just did it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think, that's kind of how you have to do it. And the most beautiful example of that is children learning to walk. They split their chins open, they bonk their face off of everything, they land on their asses every 2 seconds, and they laugh and giggle and never stop. No judgment. They just keep trying until they get it. So why should anything that we do in life be any different? We go for it.
Sprout.
That's right.
Right. I think that's going to become a hashtag. It's just, I'm sprouting. Yeah. Give me a moment. I'm sprouting. And I see, Cindy's like, I love you, Dr. Michelle. We know that, right? Patricia. Hey, Patricia. Wonderful to see you. Beautiful post today, Patricia. Thank you so much for blessing us. Love this chat. Thank you. She's saying, I have Taria saying, I love that. One for me, and blessing others with blessing 2 other families. So she's just really making sure we do that. You got lots of the comments. Fazia is out there saying hello. Jennifer is saying, what's up, Michelle? Chantel Simpson is here. And just absolute appreciation for what you had to share with us tonight. And so I'm going to ask everybody, just don't just give appreciation. This is we're gonna show our love by the number 3, right? So we're get the book. Holidays is coming. Thanksgiving's coming in the U.S. There's somebody who has a child who needs the book. There's a parent who needs this book, right? Michelle, Such a blessing. You just continue to inspire me. It's always just a joy to just be in conversation to you, to just know you. We don't talk often, but whenever we do, it's like I just have love for you, hun. So thank you. And definitely we'll be doing this again in the new year. Take care and best of luck.
Thanks for having me. The feeling is mutual.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
All right.